Hey guys, my name is Nimrah and I'm one of the team members here at Brown Girl Health, and today we're going to be discussing COVID, and it's our second episode of our Mental Health Monday. And we're doing this series especially because it's May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're going to be discussing COVID with a therapist. So let's wait for her. Let me see. Hi.
Hi, how are
I'm
you?
good. How are you?
I am doing well. It's so good to be here with you
Thank you
guys,
so much for
with you
joining
ladies.
us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So, my first question, and let's just jump right into it. But
Yeah.
so, especially with seeing everything that's going on in India with COVID, how do you think people over here should basically deal with it? Because every time we basically go online on Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, anything, there's so much about basically how bad things over there are. People don't have access to oxygen cylinders and everything. So, how do you think like we should basically deal with that?
Yeah, no, that's such a great question. Let me just back up really quick and do like a really short introduction. So, my name is Ektha Aggarwal, and I'm a psychotherapist out here in Los Angeles, and I primarily work with South Asians. So, this question that you brought up, just what's happening with COVID-19, there's so much focus on supporting India, which it's deeply helpful and important. And at the same time, I think we need to really start to shed a little bit of light to Indian Americans living here. And like you mentioned, some of the stress that they're feeling checking all these social media platforms. When I think about this, it's so normal to feel anxious, to feel scared, to feel fearful because you're in crisis. So I've had like friends, including myself, I have family in India as well, ask me like, "Oh my gosh, I'm consistently scared. Is that normal?" What's normal? We're in this day and age where we're in a pandemic. The whole world has gone through. That's not normal. So whatever's coming up for people, whatever is happening, it's not normal, but it is normal in the state of crisis. And so, I would say we just got out of a crisis and we're going right back in. So you're being re-traumatized over and over, and your body hasn't even been able to manage the trauma from the first one fully. And so that level of anxiety, that level of fear might be even more heightened. One, because it could be family and friends that are dear and close to your heart. But two, your body's keeping score. It hasn't finished processing the first trauma. And so, I think your question was like, what are some of the things that are being impacted? You can see like racing heart rate, and that being like a consistent thing. So your fight and flight response is just so activated. And even though it's there, your body's there to protect you, it thinks you're in crisis and it's trying to alert you in all ways so you can manage it. It's a unique situation because there's no real way to manage it. Nobody can really like fly out to India and support your family. And even if you did, you're not only risking yourself, but you're potentially risking your family. You could be
Yeah.
putting in more stress for them. And so that heart rate, sweaty palms, feeling really confused, feeling guilty for so many reasons. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that,
Yeah.
is really, really hard. And, your breathing's going to be a little bit different. Your sleep's going to be changed. Your diet's going to be changed. And this is where you might feel you're trying to survive. So you are in a survivor mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
because
that something that you, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. It's fine.
I was going to ask, like, is that something that you've experienced? Or I wonder, if any of our listeners, if any of these like feelings or sensations are something that feel normal for them during this time.
Yeah, definitely. I've experienced that because I see so many people back in India struggling, and I'm just over here like I'm living this more normalized version of the pandemic. Like I'm able to leave my house, I'm able to like go to the gym if I want, but they're not able
Yeah.
to do it. And I'm just like, and then I get this feeling of guilt where I'm just like, I have done nothing to deserve this. what have they done to deserve such bad conditions over there? Nothing. And then I just get this like feeling of guilt, and I'm just like, I'm not supposed to feel that because it's not in my control.
Mhm.
But then you do feel
Yeah.
that.
Gosh, like so much is coming up just like hearing you say that, for a lot of us who are here, we've either migrated here or we're born here. And, we come here with a lot of dreams, the American dream, a new job, getting into a college, getting married. It's just a lot of hope, a lot of lightness, a lot of, joy. And now we're here. We should feel happier because things, like you said, are opening up. We are going to be able to like reintroduce ourselves into the world as this like new version of ourselves after a year plus of staying home safely. And yet it still feels extra heavy.
Yeah.
It still feels like it's weight. And it's like, and if you just think about just the idea of weight, like if you carry a lot of weight, it's a little bit hard to move throughout the day. And it's like a consistent reminder that's on you. And I imagine there's thoughts like, why me? Why my family? Should I have come here? What can I do more? I'm not doing enough. I'm not a good son. I'm not a good daughter. I'm not a good wife or a husband or whatever may be coming up for you. And I think behind all of that guilt, there might even be this like lurking feeling of, I'll never forgive myself for leaving. Or maybe someone won't forgive me for not doing more than I can. So I want to just like, with a heavy heart, just acknowledge that that guilt feels real. And just as much as folks are going into crisis in India, so are you. And this is like an experience. We call this survivor's guilt. Um, and even though survivor's guilt is not really like a diagnosis in a manual, it's part of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we've been going through a traumatic global event.
Yeah.
And here you're going through another traumatic event.
Yeah.
So we're just stacking these feelings and these symptoms on top of each other. You feel helpless.
Yeah.
You
Definitely.
can't do anything. Yeah, because you're so far away, right?
And then like I get these feelings where it's like, if something happens to anybody in my family because of COVID, what am I gonna do? Like that's gonna be like worse. Like, am I gonna be blaming myself?
Yeah, no, I hear that. And even the idea of blaming yourself, it's not even sadness. Sometimes it's like anger.
Yeah.
You're angry at yourself. And I think in India, whatever religion you may follow, just the culture in and of itself is so big on family. It's so big on
Definitely.
community. Yeah, and even just like our mourning process, right? Like, gosh, for everyone who's like had to go through that with family in India, being part of that mourning ritual and sending our loved ones, to heaven or enlightenment or whatever it is that you believe is such a big part of that transition
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Yeah, definitely.
So many people can't be part of that, and
Yeah.
it probably feels like you've lost a little bit of sense of purpose, a little sense of motivation. And God, I hate saying this, but with survivor's guilt, there's this like, I don't deserve to survive. And
Yeah.
so some people can spiral into suicide,
Mm-hmm.
suicidal thought. Um, before I can keep talking about this because it's just so deep and dear
Yeah.
to my heart. But I'm curious, like when those things come up, what are some things that you do to help you feel better?
For me, I guess one thing I do is like I basically try to either like put down my phone for a little bit and just like, read a book or whatever it is, go for a walk for 10 minutes and just try to distract myself, or I FaceTime like, my family back home because I just want to make sure they're doing okay. Like, because the thing is, you don't know what's going to happen any moment. So I'm just like, I need to make sure they're all okay. So like
Yeah.
doing that has like helped me, or just like talking to my family that is with me currently over here, talking to
Hmm.
them about it, being more open about it. I guess like for my family, they haven't really had much conversations about COVID.
Hmm.
Like I feel like it's like there's two types of people, with one that take it super seriously, one that don't take it seriously at all. They're like, we're immune to it. And I think so
Uh,
many of my family members have said that, and then half of my family members are like, no, it's really serious.
Yeah, and I think that that comes with privilege
Mhm.
sometimes, right? Do you have the privilege of safety? Do you have the privilege of vaccines? Do you have the privilege of healthcare? And so those folks who don't have those privileges, sometimes it's like extra scary, right? Because death is a real possibility for
Mhm.
these folks. And so I think that plays such a big role. But I love some of, you know, the suggestions that you shared. And the one thing I keep going back and thinking about is guilt. Guilt is like a moral compass for
Yeah.
us. And so sometimes we feel guilty. We're supposed to feel guilty to help us understand, you know, our values, our ethics, our morals. And so when you experience this type of guilt, I think it's a question I keep asking myself is, am I going against my ethics, values, morals, or character?
Mhm.
And when you think about that, there's nothing you can really do physically by going there. So reality checking those thoughts, reality checking our ego, our
Mhm.
limiting beliefs that feel real and normal,
Yeah.
and realizing that, God, that's like not who we really are. That's just our
Yeah.
brain playing
Def-
tricks on us.
yeah, I feel like that
Really.
check is needed so much because it's like we basically create this entire thing, reality kind of thing, that we're not doing enough, but then there's only so much you can do when you're not living over there or sitting over there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think changing that framework a little bit, a lot of times we'll ask, why me? Or, you know, instead of that question, I really want to encourage a frame change to why not me? One of the biggest indicators of support during a person going through survivor's guilt is gratitude. A lot of times we focus on the lack, which is where survivor's guilt comes from. And pain is a form of lack. It's a form of like non-attachment, not getting something, losing something.
Yeah.
But when we begin to fill our cups with why not me? What is my highest purpose? Why am I meant to still be
Mhm.
here? You begin to have a little bit more motivation, a little bit of sense of
Yeah.
purpose. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I wonder, what does that feel for you when just ask, you know, thinking of the question, why not me?
I guess I feel like maybe I'm meant to like basically try to help people from here. I can basically try to do more over here. Maybe I couldn't have done much over there. Maybe I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
more over here. Maybe I'm raising more awareness for people that aren't even living in India. And like we're able to, I feel like, now that you've said that, I feel so lucky that I'm able to basically donate money over there. I'm able to create more awareness. I'm able to be a part of this amazing organization and, basically talk to people like you. So like, we can get more informed.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's just interesting how like that moment of switch can
Mm-hmm.
help so many people and help themselves. And you know, I think you brought up some really great points, like other ways to kind of manage some of that anxiety or survivor's guilt is donating. You know, donating is such a big part because we feel like we're involved. We feel like there's a purpose, a sense of belonging. And and I will also say donation is not a privilege that's available to everybody.
Definitely, definitely.
So there's like multiple ways. Maybe it's advocating, and I've seen so many amazing posts from my South Asian yogis out there really advocating for yoga
Mm-hmm.
studios to start donating and just bringing awareness to the community as a whole on what's happening.
Yeah.
So there's multiple ways to like
Yeah,
support.
definitely. I feel like at the end of the day, it's just about creating awareness and like basically talking more about it. You
Yeah.
can donate, and if you can't, that's fine too. You can just like create more awareness. You can talk more about it and see, like, basically, I feel like talking more about it is going to do more than not talking about it, obviously.
Absolutely. And, you know, with this, we probably are consistently checking all our social media platforms for updated information, and things are being changed every hour in
Mhm.
India. And so, as much as there's that fight and flight that wants us to check, it's so important to limit yourself to 2 to 3 resources a day and cut down that time. Like, if you're checking 24 hours a day, maybe limit it to 15 minutes every 3 hours
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
every 4 hours.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like that's such a big thing because like then you kind of just get obsessed with it and you basically start stressing yourself out for no reason. And I think like for me, like for some of my friends, I have a group chat with some of my friends like who are living overseas and not in India. And we were basically talking about how seeing all of this news, basically seeing that like people don't have access to so many things over there right now. People can't really get time off of work to stay, like even if they have COVID, because jobs don't really care that much. And it's like we're just talking about how we aren't able to do much, but then at the same time we're consuming so much content, we're stressing ourselves out, and we're not basically helping anybody by stressing ourselves out. We're just like creating more panic for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you brought up a good point. We're not helping anyone, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is the time we need to be grounded and present for our loved ones out there.
Yeah.
And so self-caring, which, you know, reducing screen time is part of that. Self-caring is so extra important to do even more,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
Yeah.
gonna need more sleep because your body's activated like crazy right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need more nourishment, more exercise. Reach out to friends. I mean, if you're having a hard day, reach out to someone to talk to, whether that's a therapist or a friend.
And I think you brought out like a really good point of therapy because it's so still so stigmatized like in the brown therapy, like South Asian environment, everything, because it's like 2021 but still like not seen as a good thing.
Mm-mm. Yeah, absolutely. I will say, like, just with my own practice, like, I've seen so many more South Asians come across,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels so good to hear that they feel safe reaching out for support. And at the same time, I will also say such a limitation to support with our community.
Yeah.
So for folks who don't know a South Asian therapist or don't know about platforms like Brown Girl Health or
Yeah.
SouthAsianTherapist.com, for them, it's like you're reaching out to people and explaining your culture and the
Yeah.
values and the tradition. And it's half therapy is just like educating a therapist. So it makes it really challenging.
Definitely. No, I've experienced that because I started therapy around 4 months ago, I think. And most of it was just like me having to explain that like why things are the way they are in my culture. And it was just such a big thing. Like, yeah, it was such a big thing of like me having to explain why things are the way they are in my culture.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started therapy, it was the same thing, which is why I just decided, gosh, I really want to support our community so they can come to us and there's like a basic understanding,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah, like even just the word boundaries, like boundaries play such a different role in a South Asian family versus a non-South Asian family. And so with COVID-19, like that level of support, that guilt is even higher for Asians
Yeah,
just as a whole because we are community oriented versus individualistic here in the Western society. So it's like that duality is also at play, that's stacking up.
definitely. Because it's like we're so family oriented. It's just like literally everything with us has to do with family.
Hmm.
So when we're
Yeah.
not able to help them, we feel this immense guilt and pressure too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had someone the other day ask me, like, I'm trying to talk to my family about what's happening, you know, with COVID out in India, but they don't want to ever talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I get it. They're going through a crisis. So there's a couple things. Most folks who are here are probably children or grandchildren.
Yeah,
And so they don't want to burden you.
definitely.
That's one. Two, you're also like a saving grace. You're a breather from the chaos that's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And I imagine for folks in India, like COVID's just a topic that is on the news. Every family's talking about it. Every neighbor's talking about it. Every professional, every doctor. I mean, there's no room to breathe
Yeah,
outside of it. It's where we were March to like August last year. So in those moments, I want to encourage, like, if family isn't ready, maybe it's bringing that sense of hope, that lightness to
yeah.
them. So if you have kids, bring those kids onto the video. I think that just like brings so much joy because their kids are so innocent and pure that it makes them feel a little bit better.
Definitely, because I was talking to somebody and basically they said that what they do is they do these weekly game nights with their family because they don't really want to talk about COVID. And I didn't see it that way, the way you just represented that they need a breather. I didn't see it that way until like right now because I feel like sometimes we just need somebody else to say it and then you kind of like think about it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, but they do like family game nights and all of that and for like 2 hours, like once a week or twice a week. And I feel like that would be basically time away from thinking about everything bad that's happening.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. I think it's so important to create shared experiences.
Mm-hmm.
When we share experiences, we move a little bit away from crisis, but more importantly, shared experiences builds hope.
Yeah,
And right now, we need to build hope.
yeah.
We need to build hope for them, with them, and like collectively support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I like that. You can even like, I think Hulu and Netflix now has like watch parties, so you can watch like Bollywood movies
You can
together.
even like do Zoom calls and then share your screen. And you can
Yeah,
actually talk during the movie, so it's like
that's good to know. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
that's what like my friends, all of us, like we live across the world. Like we don't live near each other, and like it's like so hard to basically see each other. So it's like we're just always doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that a lot. I think the other piece I'll say is sometimes it might be hard to get a hold of family because time difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have things like WhatsApp, Telegraph, leave video notes.
Yeah,
Some waking up to that can feel like such a breath of fresh air and so heartwarming.
yeah,
So I love using that feature. I think like technology, even though it's like separated us for another conversation, there's like so much space that's like brought us together
see, yeah. Like
in ways
I love
as
that point
well.
that you brought up because like yeah, technology has separated us, but like especially in this pandemic, it has like brought us closer. And I see that so much because like I'm somebody like I'm an introvert. Like I don't really talk to a lot of people. I just talk to people that I'm super close to, and it's like I started talking to them so much over quarantine, and I think it's just been like such a good experience for me, like not quarantine, but like basically technology, because I get to talk to more of my family and friends like on a regular basis now.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think that's across the board for many people, just generalizing. A lot of a lot of folks are seeing that there are different ways to connect with our community. There's different ways to connect with our loved ones. And the options are endless. So I think it's so important to like not lose that even in the space of crisis. So yeah, I mean, if they were here today, would you go bring them food? Would you take them for a walk? You would do all these things to kind of get them out of that
Mm-hmm.
headspace. So what can you do virtually to offer that same type of experience?
Yeah, and I feel like until all of this happened, we took our family for granted for like in so many different ways. And now that we basically have that fear of losing them, we've gotten closer to them, which is unfortunate that we got closer to them during this time. But like, I feel like now we're appreciating family much more.
Absolutely. Um, I'll offer one more thing that actually just came to my mind. A lot of times we pick up that phone call and we want to ask, like, how are you?
Yeah.
How should I say this? And so, that question is a little heavy. How are they? You already know, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not good. They're in
Yeah.
crisis. They're in chaos. And so I wonder, what is a different question you can ask so it's not putting them in a space where they're having to answer that heavy question.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the questions I like to ask is like, oh, how did you show strength today? What did you move forward towards with? What made you smile even for a second
Yeah.
this moment? And so taking them out of the why me into why not me framework
Yeah.
already just lightens that conversation, and they start thinking in a way that they haven't thought about all day, all week.
Yeah. And I feel like it just starts a different conversation too from what they're used to, because like first they're if you ask like how are you, they're gonna have to explain the entire situation that's going on. But if you ask another question, they're gonna be forced to think like, what did I actually do that was different?
Absolutely. And you're changing the game altogether,
Yeah.
right? Because everyone asks, how are you?
Hmm.
And so just even changing that perspective for them is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But my next question, like this question I have is like, like you see all of this, like politicians and them are not doing that much, but people like that are like, normal people are doing so much more, which is so unfortunate. And that's like what I've been thinking about so much recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it goes to show the power of a community,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And we become a country, a community, not by who rules or governs
Yeah.
us, but how collective our force is. And the energy and the power is in the collective. And so I do think, there's this like duality where it's so sad because you can't depend on the providers of the
Yeah.
country. And the beauty of all of this is also like that silver lining is you see this rise of a different way of healing.
Exactly, because like, all of like the different religions, they fight a lot, but when a crisis comes, they all get together.
Yeah,
Which I feel I wish like people were just united like all the time, but it's unfortunate that doesn't happen. But I guess like even in a crisis, at least you can see that you can be united. It's just you gotta just work out through the differences.
absolutely. And even if there are differences, I think what just unites us is humanity.
Ex-
It's life. It's collectively we are here together as a whole, regardless of race, gender, color, socioeconomic
Yeah,
status, and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah. And, I think when you come together as humanity, you realize that we're human beings, not
mhm.
human doings.
Yeah,
And so it doesn't matter what job you're doing or, what position you're holding, but you get to kind of just be together.
exactly. Because like right now, it doesn't matter who you are. We're all going through this. It's just you have to
Yeah.
realize that like we all go through life, and we should just try making it better for everyone instead of just making it worse for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's promising, in all of these crises that we go through, it's promising that to see how people are changing, just even myself and like my friends, like we're becoming more aware, more mindful, more enlightened.
Yeah, over this past year, I've seen like a big change in my friends too. Like, I've seen like they've been more involved in our community, they've been more involved in bringing a change and basically, like, trying to make the world a better place. And I think that
Mhm.
side of us, like, we didn't really need to bring that side out before. Like, we needed to, but like, we didn't really feel that difference before.
Yeah, I don't think we had time.
Yeah, I feel like
We
now
were
this is
living in
like
this
the
like rat
a chance
race.
to like self-reflect because you're with yourself for
Yeah.
so many hours. Like you had basically like, for students they had that last semester off, but for people they're working through like, home and stuff. It's just you had
Hmm.
time and time to just reflect.
Absolutely. And in order to be there for other people, you first need to understand yourself and how you can be there for you.
Exactly.
So the more mindful we become of ourselves, the more aware we become of ourselves, then you can extend that from a full cup out.
Yeah, especially
So
because I saw this quote that said, hurt people, which I feel like
yeah.
is so true because if you basically can't heal yourself, if you're not okay with yourself, with your mental health or anything, you're going to hurt more people in the process, especially people that don't deserve to be hurt.
Absolutely. And, even that quote, hurt people, doesn't mean you're consciously doing it because
Exactly.
you're not aware of what you're not aware of.
Yeah.
And so the more we continue to work on ourselves, you just become a more caring and loving person. And that's our essence is love.
And I feel like going back to the whole therapy thing, I feel like not only people who are struggling with their mental health should get it, I feel like everyone should have that one person to talk to. If you don't collectively have that one friend or parent or sibling, whatever, to talk to, then you could, like, go to therapy. I feel like it's so helpful.
Yeah, I'll actually maybe make a little bit of a distinction there. It's so important to have a support system, like friends and family. And sometimes we don't share what we really are feeling with our support system because of judgment.
Yeah.
That's like the big distinction with therapy. It's really like unbiased and it's a one-way conversation. So it's about you.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting here telling me about you, I'm not going to be like, gosh, I totally get it. This is what happened to me. And then I take that attention away, that focus away from you, which it's normal for friends and
Yeah.
family to do that. Relatable. But therapy is definitely like, it is the focus is you. It's to support you, to meet you where you're at with no judgment and no bias. And so I would say like if you are struggling, there's a lot of bravery and courage in asking the questions that you've just avoided with the
Yeah.
therapist.
I mean, even admitting to yourself that you're struggling and that you need help is such a big thing, because like a lot of us have just gone through life feeling a certain way and we never ask for help. But like I feel like just admitting that you need help is such a big thing. And I feel like with therapy, it's like you're basically talking to a stranger. You're not gonna get judged, and it's not.
Hopefully not.
I feel like that's such a big thing for so many people. It's like, oh, this is gonna go back to my parents or gonna go back to my friends, but it doesn't go back to your friends or family. And I think that's like one of the best things about therapy, is that it stays with
Absolutely.
you and the person that you're talking to, like your therapist.
Yeah, and it doesn't go back to your community. Even, I think there's fear like, oh gosh, if I see a South Asian therapist, will they tell their friends in their community? And we are binded by HIPAA, which is like a privacy protection clause. And we could lose our licenses, we could lose our jobs.
Exactly.
So it's really put there to protect you as a person.
Yeah, that's like, because I feel like therapy is still like so stigmatized for some reason. But I'm like, it's 2021. We need to get over that stigma and we need to like start getting help, because so many of us do need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just the very mere fact that we are living in this duality with cultural obligation to our family, our friends, our religion, if you're religious, and that comes into direct conflict in this Western society you call home. Those values are completely different, and we just highlighted community versus individual
Yeah,
today.
because I have struggled so much with like my culture, my religion. It's like if I'm embracing my culture, then it's like I'm not going to be accepted by the people I'm surrounded by, because they don't have the same culture. Or if I'm like basically accepting my religion, then it's like I'm still going to be basically seen as weird or different. And when you're basically in a country where, like, where you don't really see representation of your type, you basically just want to be accepted. You don't want to be seen as different or weird or anything. You just want to be seen as like one of the other people. Like you just want to be seen normal, basically.
Yeah, I think you described it really well. And so when all you're trying to do is be accepted, you're moving between personas in different communities and you're out of alignment. And when you ask yourself, who am I? That answer is deeply confusing because you're all these different people reacting in all these different ways with all these different values based on which community you're interacting with.
Yeah, like there's so many. I think for me, it's like I took a long time to accept myself for who I am. And I would basically like in front of my friends I would be a different person, but in front of my family I would be a completely different person. And then in front of my cousins I would be just like a mixture of both.
Right. I fully relate. I feel like you're taking me back to my college days where I was like playing all these different roles, and I was that person who wore a different outfit to school and then would change to go see my parents. And it's to protect all these different personas. And as you grow up, you realize like that affects your relationships, that affects your job, that affects your mental health because you don't feel fulfilled, you don't feel aligned
It's,
with who you are.
yeah.
So it's more, I think, more and more important. And there's so many amazing resources that are just coming out for South Asians to access a South Asian therapist. You know, of course, anyone is always welcome to reach out to me if they're looking for a therapist or need support. But even southaasiantherapist.org, I think it came out late last year, and I'm just so grateful for that platform because it's connecting everyone worldwide, which is impressive.
Yeah, ever since Amik told me that like I was gonna be doing this today, I was checking out your account, and honestly, it's been like so helpful and it's so resourceful. Like it just doesn't feel like you're basically talking to a therapist or you're looking at a therapist account. It just feels like normal.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. I
No,
appreciate that.
most therapists that I see that have like social media and all of that, like a platform, it seems like really formal, basically.
Mm. Yeah, I think my approach is very informal because, and maybe it's, I bring in a lot of personal experience into this. I'm like, oh, I've been through that. I get it.
Yeah.
So I kind of take that less formal approach just to be relatable.
Yeah.
It's like we're peers. Yes, I am a therapist, but that doesn't mean anyone who sees my account is a client. It's
Hmm.
just someone who's looking for support, and that's okay.
So if somebody
Yeah.
wants to like wants you as their therapist, what would they do?
You know, I would love one for them to check out my website.
Hmm.
There's a link in my bio to my website. The reason I suggest that is there's a video on just my style, who I am, how I practice, and the number one indicator of successful therapy is the rapport between a client and a
Yeah,
therapist.
definitely.
So I want that person to feel comfortable with me. So that would be the first approach. You can always send me a DM through Instagram. You can email me. You can call me. I mean, whatever approach feels most comfortable, that first outreach, and then I will take over and support them in that space.
Yeah, I feel like people just need to make the first step and they would get an amazing therapist like you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, those I think this conversation about like whole COVID like made me see things in a different perspective basically. Like I said before, like you need somebody else to say something, even if it's right in front of you. Like you can think of it, but you're not gonna believe it until somebody else like really says it to you.
Yeah, it's like that light bulb moment that you knew was there, but it just lights up in a different way
Yeah,
this time, right?
yeah. Especially with the whole like survivor's guilt, I feel like I've noticed that I can make a difference over here too. And maybe I can like help my family that's like struggling by just talking to them about something different. Maybe that can like brighten up their day or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think Brown Girl Health has like a great resource on how, how to check in with your mental health and
Yeah.
ways to manage that anxiety. And even if you have friends out there who want to understand your experience, there's like a post on how Americans can help our South Asian American peers.
And like
So,
I've seen like such great support of like like all of these fundraisers that I've seen like we've basically been exceeding the amount so early, like so quick, and I'm like, that's amazing. That's literally amazing that we're able to do so much just by being here. And like just by being even by being out of the country, we're able to do so much still.
absolutely. I love that you pointed that out. That just like immediately made me feel really grateful that we're having that impact and that purpose that we're creating.
Hmm. And I feel like even by having this conversation, we're basically like people that are watching this are going to get more awareness. They're going to understand more of like how to like deal with family members that are going through that, or if they themselves are going through that.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you guys, anyone has a question or wants to share a feeling, I welcome you to send me a DM. I mean,
Yeah,
this is a collective process we're all going through. And so I definitely want to be as supportive as I can through that as you learn and grow into this new normal.
yeah, because unfortunately it is our new normal.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was a really important conversation to be having, and I appreciate you holding space for that.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Like, you just brought up such amazing points.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate and work with everyone here
Yeah,
and supporting our South Asian community.
definitely. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.